Make mango wine out of mango scraps. 2 weeks ago, I started a mango wine. Well, it's kind of a wine slash mead, melomel, which is like a fruit infused mead. And I made this up using mango scraps, so the seeds and skins from some mangoes that I was dehydrating. And I also used some wash, so basically like the cleaning water from my honey harvest buckets as well. So there was a bit of honey that went into this mixture as well. And then I topped that all up with a bit of sugar and a few other goodies in order to turn it into a mango ferment. Before I go any further today, what I might do is just kind of take you back to that day where I started putting it all together, and I'll show you how I put it together. And then we'll fast forward to today and we will rack this wine. On this day, I'd been doing some dehydrating of mangoes, and we had all these skins and all these seeds, and thought, let's pop those in a bucket with also some wash water that I had from a honey harvest that I'd use for kind of cleaning out the buckets and extractors and stuff. There was about a litre of honey in there still. I thought, let's throw that all in the bucket with some sugar and see if we can turn this into a yummy mango wine. So I do quite a bit of winemaking, so I had some pectinase already, some yeast nutrient, and I also had about a half a packet of some wine yeast from a previous batch of fruit wine that I'd done. So I used all of those to make this wine. Here I'm using the yeast and kind of just heating it up to the right level. You do need to be a bit careful with your yeast that you get it to the right temp. I think it's about 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. And once that was kind of in with some water at the right temp and nice and activated, that went into the bucket here as well. I then left that for a few days, so it was probably about 3 days that I left the skins and the seeds in that liquid, and that did a bit of a primary ferment over those 3 days. Over the 3 days, it's actually really important that you kind of do this thing that's called pushing the must down. So basically all that is where you take a spoon, like I'm doing here, and each day you go and basically push all the material that's on the surface. So in this case, it's the skins of those mangoes and also the seeds. And you want to push those down underneath the liquid, and that just stops you from getting any moulding and things like that. And what was really cool, and you can see here, is that from those first days we were already getting lots of bubbling and lots of activity, and that was actually really good because I was actually a little sus on the yeast. I'd had that sitting in the fridge for, geez, it was probably well over a year in an open state, and it probably shouldn't have worked, but because I had all those scraps, I had thought, hey, why not give it a crack? And it was really pleasing at this stage to see it so active. Now, after those 3 days, I decided it was time to take the skins and the seeds out. And that was because this is the first time I've done it with mangoes like this. And I had been doing a little bit of research, and some people said there can be a little bit of bitterness that can come from the mango skins and seeds. So I thought maybe I shouldn't leave it on there too long, and maybe I should pull them out. So after the 3 days, I strained it, as you can see here, and then I transferred the liquid to some demijohns that I had. And the idea is that they then sit for a longer period of time, and that liquid is, kind of in much more of a contained space and can go on to the secondary fermentation. And that's also where the liquid can start to age and start to taste a little bit different as well. It also means that it can continue to keep producing the alcohol as well. I did have a little sneaky taste at this stage, and things were still pretty sweet, so there was still lots of sugars in there to ferment into alcohol as well. Now, the colour on this at this stage is so lovely. I really love the golden colour that it was. But as you watch through the video, it's actually really interesting to see how the colour of this mango wine actually changes from this beautiful mango orangey yellow colour that we see here to what it ultimately ends up looking like. This here was basically me just having a bit of a look at that colour in the sun, because it was actually really beautiful, and I was wondering at this stage if it would maintain that colour. But if you stick with to the end, you'll see that it changes quite a lot, but looks pretty cool right at the end too. Here I'm just filling up the airlocks, And you do that basically to ensure that you don't have oxygen getting in and no baddies can get in while it's fermenting. And then it was put away to ferment. So now that you're all caught up on how I've got to this stage, let's get on to the racking. And essentially the racking is the stage where we take this wine, so this nice clear liquid here, off of the lees, which is, if you can kind of see down the bottom here, we've got a layer of sediment in the bottom, which is basically all those yeasts that are now spent and have fallen to the bottom. We've also got a bit of foam on this one as well. So what we want to do is try and get the nice clear liquid, no foam and none of these dead yeasty lees. The way I'm going to do that is by siphoning. I've got this sterilized tubing that we're going to use today. And basically what we're going to do is siphon from this top bottle to this sanitized one that I've got at the bottom here. So let's start transferring. Ideally, when you do this, you want to run it down the side of your jar, and that just stops too much aeration. Because when you're making alcohol, aeration is basically the last thing you want. Too much air in your mix is what's actually going to turn your alcohol into vinegar. And why we try to minimise the amount of air by using the tube instead of just pouring from one vessel into another. So this is what we have left over in this one here. And so you've got all that yeasty stuff at the bottom and also the foamy stuff at the top. So let's get our second bottle and start racking that one as well. Get it to stop, I just pull that out. There we go. So now that this one is full, what I'm going to do is grab one of the airlocks that we were using before, and I'm just going to pop that back on the bottle. And that is because it is still fermenting at the moment, so I don't want to put a proper cap on it quite yet. I did just want to get it today off of that yeast and also get rid of some of that foam. And you can see here, there's still a little bit of foam on top, but that's looking an awful lot clearer than it was. So here are our two bottles all racked, and also a bit of a cheeky glass because I thought I'd have a bit of a taste. And already this is tasting really, really good. At this stage, they call it a young wine, and you can drink young wine. It's perfectly fine to do that. There's no reason not to. It's really about developing the flavors that you would leave it to age for a longer time. So what I'm actually going to do, given how good this tastes, is I'm going to drink this first bottle. Obviously, it's not all the way full as well, so it's probably a good idea to drink it up. I'm going to drink that as young wine, and that is delicious as it is. And then what I'm going to do is leave this second bottle here to age for a bit longer. I'll probably pop it in my study for another couple of months, and it will be really interesting just to see how the difference in taste is between the aged one and the young wine. But looking forward to drinking both of these, because from that little sneaky taste I've already had, it's absolutely wonderful. I should also mention with the aging, I'm going to keep this in the study because the temperature in there is fairly stable and it's summertime at the moment, so it's probably the best place to put it. I don't want it getting too hot. And the other thing is, you probably noticed I've got the airlock still on it, and there was a couple of little bubbles a second ago there, and that's because this is still fermenting. It hasn't quite finished yet. So if I put a proper cap on this right now, there's a chance that this bottle's going to explode. So that's why I'm keeping my airlock on this for now. So the mango wine has been sitting for a couple of months now in my study. I'm not sure if this comes up that well on camera, but It is absolutely clear now, and it's looking magnificent. So from here, I'm just going to start drinking this one too. We already finished up the young wine that I showed you earlier, but this one here is the one that we've left to age a little bit longer, and I'm going to have a taste and let you know what this one tastes like too. So here we go. Here is our first glass of the aged mango wine, melomel, mead, whatever we're calling it, or the purists want to call it. Mango wine with a bit of a honey hit, let's give it that. You can see again, it is beautiful and clear looking compared to what it was looking like earlier. I probably should have strained it a little better. There's a little bit of sediment in the bottom there, but that's not the end of the world. My drinks are always a little bit rustic, but that is so beautiful and clear now. All right, so the real test is giving it a bit of a taste. You probably see I have thrown a little bit of ice in because I do tend to like this chilled, and it is a very hot day here at the moment, so I didn't want to drink it warm. All right, let's give it a taste. Oh, yum. All right, that flavour, it's really developed and changed since that last taste we had. This one here is a little bit more winey, a bit more of an alcohol sort of taste to it. If that's the right description to use. I am definitely not a wine connoisseur, so I shan't be telling you about the notes and characters, but it definitely has more of an alcohol hit to it now, and the sugars have kind of scaled back a little bit now, and that'd just be as the sugars have been consumed through the fermentation. When we were drinking it as a young wine, it was really quite sweet. I like sweet, so I definitely didn't mind that, but this now has kind of aged, developed a bit more flavour to it. It's kind of, again, I'm not a wine connoisseur, so I'm probably terrible in terms of how I'm describing this, but it's got a little bit more of kind of a savoury mango kind of a note to it now, as opposed to that really kind of fresh mango flavour that it had previously. Anyway, there we go. This is kind of the end product now, so this is probably where we're going to wrap this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed hearing how I've made this mango wine, and maybe it'll give you the confidence to have a bit of a go at something like this as well. Definitely give a shout in the comments if you've got any questions, and thanks for joining, and catch you later.